Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon. Depends on where you are in the world. We are going to be starting in about 1 minute. I still see some people logging in and a couple people struggling with the connection. So we'll give you 1 more minute, grab a coffee, beverage, dependent on which time zone you're in, appropriate to time of the day. And we'll get started in 1 or 2 more minutes. All right then. So the numbers of the attendees have stabilized. So I think let's kick it off. Again, good morning, good afternoon to where you are in the world. I think there's a very good international mix. I can see some names probably all the way from Far East Asia. I can see some European names. I can see a couple of Arabics. So really good mix today, global audience. Great to have you all here today. Guys, my name is Pavel. I'm a co-founder of Meiro. I look after product and based in Prague, Czech Republic. And I'm here today here for an exciting session with one of our longtime customers who's willing to kind of come on live here and share with us their kind of experience and how they do personalization and custom data analytics at a large bank, heavily regulated, which is very typically, from my experience, difficult to get customers from this space to talk publicly about what they do. A little bit more stringent. So this is a great one today. I think you're in for a treat because this is highly complex project and environment. A little bit about client here first. I'll introduce Svitek and then I'll give him the floor to take us through kind of a little bit of a content and his experience that he prepared, and I'll have some questions and comments here and there. So Komerční banka, it's a commercial bank, it's loosely translated, is one of the market leaders in Czech Republic in retail banking, part of a French-based group, Société Générale. And they have been customers of ours for 3 years using Meiro in digital analytics space, as well as the kind of a customer analytics in a CDP space. This is really interesting. Vitek has been with the project since start. He's got a great experience, comes from big telco, worked with multiple marketing automation platforms and tools, and is a really like a hands-on person with data, but at the same time a leader of commercial initiatives, which is really interesting combination. Vitku, over to you. Let's take us through the presentation. And before you do that, for everyone, there's a chat here where you can either ask Q&A. So if you want to put a question down, type it into Q&A or type it into chat, or you can type it in public or privately to me. So either way, I will pick up the questions and I'll sort them out to either ask them during when it's appropriate or leave it to the end, to the kind of a discussion part. So do not hesitate to ask questions. I think there's a bunch of interesting content today. So you'll be, I'm sure there will be things you will want to double click on. So we'd go over to you, and excited to what you have to share with us today.
Okay, thank you, Pavel, for introduction. Just brief notes about Komerční banka, about the story, because since 2019 there was huge, I would say, shift within the bank future, because bank and KB decided migrate from, let's say, monolith systems to microservice architecture. And they also decided to launch a new internet banking and the new mobile app. And part of that was the initiative that we would like to also present new digital analytics and new digital, let's say, tool, because we want it to be digital first banking. And just a moment, yeah. What was the challenges where we faced to? I think 3-4 years ago. It was definitely needs of on-premise and compliant analytics. It was, I would say, the major challenge ahead of us because tools like Google Analytics or Adobe Analytics was not suitable for us due to, let's say, cloud participation within the tool. And also the other challenges was what I would say real-time response within the customer journeys during the journeys within the digital channels. And I would say within the analytics, another challenge was also unified journeys, because I would say in a couple of minutes, but I would say the need of, let's say, complete different customer journeys on different channels. It's kind of challenge itself. And of course, we wanted also a tool which we will, let's say, integrate it within the new systems and new microservices infrastructure. And basically, a few years ago, when Meiro, when we meet Meiro, they all promises to us, and I think I will show you in a couple of minutes that they don't lie, that can deliver all of these points. Okay, what was the impact of the Meiro after a few years? Definitely, what we can do now is real-time tracking of all events within the digital channels, and if we want, we can basically react in real time within every customer event on every our digital channel. What we are doing with the data, respectively, within the data volume processing, we are doing right now about for let's say a couple of millions daily processes events a day, and it's huge amount of the data, and Meiro is ready to handle with that. So this is also a challenge by itself. And what is also benefit right now is that we have one analytics and one CDP tool, which are, I would say, suitable for all channels within the one platform, because usually you could have one, let's say, tool for web analytics and web platforms, and another for mobile platforms and web analytics. And this is all in one within the KB and for our purposes. And of course, it's compliant and fully resistant within the Czech law and EU law. So this is, and this was the impact. And let's say I would also brief challenges which were ahead of us. And after introduction of challenges, I would say how we handle these challenges into real impact. So as I mentioned, I would say the biggest purpose on the start was analytics within all channels. And within those analytics, we facing ahead of multi-entry and non-linear customer journeys. What it means, it means that you can basically start a journey from one point and also from the middle of the journey, and maybe also when you sign documents and these stuff. So there has to be precise analytics and measure all customer journeys and all funnels separately, and not, let's say, overtaking these funnels over one. And also, what was the challenge was also multiple devices, anonymous devices, if you are logged or you are not logged, and so on and so on, and created one customer or one card of customer.
Vito, maybe let me pause here and ask a couple of questions. I'll just that we have a few more people who joined, so let me just remind everyone: Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, or the chat. You can shoot questions directly to me. I'll read them out and I'll organize them. I've got maybe a couple questions. If we can explain a few terms that are going to be super familiar to you and maybe not so familiar for everyone. We also don't know that everyone here is from the same industry. I would assume not. So maybe let's explain it. You said a keyword, non-linear customer journey. Could you maybe give us an example of a product and like explain the steps and explain the complexity, why this is hard, and what did this tracking and measurement look like sort of pre-Meiro, maybe, if at all?
Yeah, definitely. So you can imagine if you are applying for customer loans, for example, it is the most common product in banking industry. And the customer journey for customer loans can vary. I would say at least three common customer journeys. One is basically end-to-end journey. It means you never applied before for that. So you are starting from one starting screen and you are going through the process, and you are basically applied for application, and then the bank, let's say, see if you are available for the application or not, and if we will grant it the loan for you or not. So this is basically one journey. Another journey could be, and also we are talking about consumer loans still. Could be that we or you drop somewhere between the start and to end of application process of the consumer loan, and you are starting again from the start, or you can start from the middle of the application and you are going to finish the application. And the third start could be that we approved your application, and all you need to do is only the signed documents. And what I don't mention, that we have also cross-platform development. It means that you are basically using the same screen within the internet banking and mobile app, and also within the very, let's say, places within the customer journeys. So you can imagine that if you have, for example, on a website, some product URL, so that this product URL could be the same within one step, within the fifth step of the customer journey, and also within the 10th step of the customer journey. And your task is to, let's say, differentiate these steps within the customer journeys, because from the technical point, the screen is still same. So,
And maybe one piece of context for everyone, because we have a fairly global audience here today. You mentioned internet banking, and that in the context of European banks typically means website access from a browser. And I think for some people, in the markets which are mobile first and pretty much mobile only, like the mobile app is the touch point, is the bank at this point, right? I think Europe is slowly getting there. It's never really gonna get there fully, I believe. But maybe if you can share for context, to just so people kind of understand why this is crucial for you guys. Are you able to share the maybe volume of users, like how many users are exclusively using the digital bank through like a browser and mobile and combination? Is that something you can share with people?
Yeah, I think right now the ratio is 70% for mobile app and
Mm.
30% for the website. But this is the cost of migrations of new clients within two new digital banks. And I think the ratio between these two will slightly increase for the internet banking or website mobile access because we are roll out new products like mortgages and so on. And these products are typically preferred by clients here in Europe, and they wanted to see on big screens, so on PC and so on. And mobile app is usually handled just within the day-to-day operations.
That's super interesting, I think, for everyone, because I think really a lot of markets operate at this point at mobile first, and mobile app is kind of the one interface that is the bank basically, plus maybe voice and call centers. But the old school European old school a browser on a desktop is really not so prevalent. But you can say here that I think it's very much 50-50 with in terms of adoption. KB might be a specific case because of the new digital product rollout and kind of intentional migration of customers, right? So this is really I think adding additional complexity, because a user could start a journey in one touch point. They could start filling out a form in a website in a online banking, as we call it, and they could be finishing and signing it off post approval in a mobile app, right? So that's obviously the tracking of the user with the same ID is tricky. And I think people can imagine here perhaps why whilst the interface is different, it's still kind of the same product, just surfaced in different applications, right? And people in kind of in this industry would typically say, look, but the user is logged in. This is a secure zone, so there must be kind of authenticated user. This is not like a public internet somewhere in e-commerce where user can be not logged in, right? So it's probably easy to kind of connect the two the dots that this is two devices belonging to the same person because they are signed everywhere. So the bank will know that, right? Showing them the same information. So maybe from that perspective, how are you thinking about uh, identity resolution? Because that's one of the core components that we as a CDP are trying to kind of promote, the whole with seeing customer from every touch point, including marketing automation in some industries, including interaction with advertising and the website, browsing, tracking, clicking, all of that, plus obviously the product behavior as well, right? We could access information about, are they using certain features of mobile banking? Are they just sending money, or are they using standing orders? Do we want to promote that in some way? So using these things as a little signals describing the customer. Bank will naturally have some specifics around kind of what it can track, what it can't track, and that go beyond the normal data privacy that would be in a society like a GDPR in Europe, because there's an extra layers of regulation, right? So if you can maybe say more on this, and I'm not sure if you have maybe a page for it later, if you can say otherwise, and we can
Well,
get to it later.
I have it for the later, but I can mention now just briefly because I think the identity resolutions is super important, especially for the legacy bank, because as you mentioned, it's typically that bank works within the identity within the secure zone. I mean, also internet banking and also mobile app. And yeah, we know this is the same client, but what is super beneficial for us is identity resolution within the another type of identity ID, I would say, because for example, I have slide ready for it later, but we are doing let's say calling for clients which drop within the onboarding process, and only ID here is just phone number. And for European, as Pavel mentioned, kind of legacy bank, it's super hard to working with some another ID related to clients that these let's say identity ID, but identity ID generates after you finished onboarding process, and if you drop within the onboarding process, you don't have any identity ID. And this was kind of challenge for the bank how to solve it, but within the Meiro, we just asked them, okay, guys, so we will just tracking the phone number and events, and we could easily manage the segment for contact center within the Meiro. So I would say this example.
Super. That's really, really particular, and it's kind of hard to explain to marketers in general. But I guess you have to understand how the profile, the visible profile of the customer changes when they are when they move through the marketing funnel, right? Because when I'm just going to the website, I'm completely anonymous. I might be interested in a product. I look at, credit card product page. I walk away. Then I end up opening an account. I don't fund it. I don't fully, do KYC, don't register. So kind of stuck somewhere in the middle. So the onboarding process
Yeah,
here is a lot more complex
definitely.
than somewhere like e-commerce, where you just come to the website, you maybe register for a newsletter as a step two, but then you buy and that's it. There's nothing really more to it. So a lot more complexity in the bank and fun problems to solve. Yeah, thank you. I'll let you continue. Again, everyone, if there's a questions, pop them to me in a chat directly or put them in a Q&A wherever you feel comfortable. Happy to take them completely anonymously. So don't hesitate to ask. I think there's a lot of interesting things to find out here.
Okay, I will just briefly add about the identity resolution. As you mentioned, Pavel, that another use case, because this is truly true, which you mentioned that on website usually we have only some lead forms or something like this, and all deals and all business is obviously making in the internet banking and the mobile app, and especially for marketing attributions is super important to have as many stage profiles as you can, and to evaluate the marketing attribution. So this is also another use case for us. Okay, but we should move on. What was also another challenge was definitely for us regulations. I think if you are in banking or finance industry within the world, I think you are aware that also in your country it is one of the most highly regulated environment in your country. But I would say here in the Europe and Czech Republic, and also the fact that we are under the Societe Generale group, we have to follow many regulations like Czech regulations, EU regulations, so also some of US regulations. So we are super regulated, and what usually the rest of market could do, we are not able to do. And one biggest challenge for us was definitely about full, let's say, control of the data. And the challenge was to have only on-prem data, not even on the private cloud within in EU or something like this. And also another challenge, because as I mentioned, KB transfer all all services into microservice infrastructure and architecture, and from monolith blocks, which KB was used to. And also there were two challenges. One of this was infra challenge, because we have to launch Meiro within the Kubernetes, within the tools like Kafka and secret management, and so on and so on. And also, except of the running applications, we also need integrated Meiro within current, I would say, existing stack of other applications, like for analytics, for example, Power BI, or for the communication, we are using SAS and their module CI 360. So this was also the big challenges for us, how we handle with integrations and with let's say deployment of Meiro within the KB. Okay, and what was the solutions within these challenges? As we mentioned, the solutions, and which we, let's say, make happy our compliance team and our legal team and our security team, was to run Meiro fully on-prem within KB infrastructure. These, let's say, runs fully within the Kubernetes management. And this ensures that all data stays locally on our infrastructure within the Czech Republic, and it not even leaves the EU or something like this. And this was really one of the major prerequisites how we run the Meiro, because run Meiro on AWS or, for example, on Google Cloud, it was no-go for us. Definitely, but Meiro is versatile, and basically you can run Meiro on any infrastructure you want. So if you are from financial sector, I think you can think about on-prem installation as well. Well, and another, let's say, challenge, and how we handle with this challenge was implementation within the current stack, because we have to run also, for example, with big data platform and with Power BI. So except of we add the identity resolutions, we have to handle how we in real time, let's say, push this information to another stack and services within the bank. So we have to also implement the Kafka integrations for the real-time communication, and also for the enhancement of the data within the Meiro. We have to also run ETL, let's say, processes, how to enhance the data in the Meiro, and also how to push the data out of the Meiro to the bank. So this was about the infrastructure, and one crucial point which I have to mention is that Meiro didn't force to us to run something on some non-supported infrastructure, because usually you can imagine For example, if you are using some part of cloud that you are using AWS and not Google Cloud, and another of you using Google Cloud and not AWS, and this is the same also within the on-premise infrastructure, because you can use, for example, Postgre databases or Databricks or something like this, and you can basically run Meiro on basically on basically whatever you want. Okay, another solution which was definitely beneficial for us, and it is also let's say based to the legal and compliance side, was also implementations of SDK for the analytics purposes, and also for the collections of the data to the Meiro. Because for the public website, we using, let's say, standard SDK and standard implementation of SDK, but for secure zone, the SDK is built directly within the application, as we mentioned, also as in internet banking, and also within the mobile application. And the code is so fully transparent, also for security teams and for developers, and there is basically no security risk at all. So this was the another benefit, not only for our security and compliance team, but also for our customers. And let's say, because I'm not sure, Pavel, about the time, I would skip to these slides, because another solutions, and it is also tied with the SDK, is tracking, especially on the public side, because we are regulated here in EU about GDPR, and also about cookie, let's say, law. And it means that you simply cannot track all user information for the public side without the consent on public side. And therefore you have to have, let's say, consent and non-consent analytics. And for that reasons, also Google implemented here in EU, you have to track only consent and non-consent data. But of course, you can, let's say, customize it. And we wanna customize it also, let's say, beyond that Google or Adobe has it here in EU. And we ask Meiro if we could, let's say, enhance the SDK. And Meiro say to us, oh, of course, it's development for a few weeks, and after a few weeks of development and few months of implementation in the bank, because everything in the bank just takes. So we are, let's say, tracking the public website for consent and non-consent user better, in my opinion, that Google or Adobe does it here in EU. And it was thanks to Meiro and their development. And I cannot imagine if I will have the same request to a Google or to Adobe. And I would say, write a request to California. I think I would wait 1 year just for received a message that this is not compliant for them, but this is not realistic for development, just for one user. So I have to admire Meiro here. that we can do it. And I think we are doing at least here in Czech Republic and the EU above the market standard.
Maybe like I've got a question here because we want to clarify this for the audience, right? So for someone who is not a specialist in a web analytics space, how would we explain this? So there is a mandate, there's a regulation law in European Union GDPR, I think globally known because a lot of the data privacy legislations around the world are now being modeled on GDPR. And we know that web visitors have to give us a cookie consent explicit in order for us to continue tracking and profiling them, right? When they do not give us the tracking, do not give us the consent, we are not supposed to track them. Some businesses still do that, but it's a kind of gray zone, potentially legal problems ahead. I'm assuming bank needs to be super compliant. There's no room for gray zones in here. So how would you explain this? What are we here doing different that with the non-consented data? Because I think the common knowledge and common understanding would be that you just cannot track non-consent, so you don't track it. You are tracking it. How so?
Yeah, we are tracking it, and non-consent data. You can imagine that we are tracking it anonymously within the sessions, and I would say unlucky set without marketing UTM. So we can do marketing attributions. What we do. We have 100% of all, I would say, session traffic within our website. And this is something, if you are using, for example, Google Analytics, you have only consent data. And for instance, you can imagine if you have consent rate 60%, it means 60% give you consent within the cookie bar. So you have only these data, and the rest you have to somehow calculate it, and maybe Google does it somehow for you. But within these non-consent tracking, we have 100% of these data. And for example, we know 100% of conversions within the public website, also with non-consent. And this is, as mentioned, Pavel, within the regulations, and within the regulations also within the EU.
Maybe I'll clarify this, and I'll try to clarify this. So we are basically saying that we track the users, but anonymously. So we are collecting the data points, but we are not tying it down to an identity, to a long-term profile of a user, like we would kind of the consented data in the normal CDP use case, right? And the use case here is purely analytical, because what you're saying is that under GDPR, the average brand is losing about 30-40% of all of the data that it could have, or all of the visitors it could have, because they do not get the consent. And as a result, marketers simply shrug it off and choose to ignore it, and to say, look, if I have a 5% conversion rate on the 60%, I'm going on and assuming that I also have the 5% conversion rate on the remaining 40%, which I'm never going to get to see. Is that how it works now?
Yeah, correctly.
Okay, perfect. So you're basically saying that it's crucial and important to have full visibility, even if it's not data that's used for profiling later. So it's kind of a second bucket of data that's only kept for analytical purposes. It's treated, forgotten. There's no way to connect it to any given user, so we don't connect identifiers. But for analytical reasons, as a bank, you have a full picture of where all of your conversions are coming from, which I can even begin to explain to people how useful this is. And I think the kind of a cookie loss and what that means to businesses and to their visibility to data, I think it's something we should kind of campaign for a little bit more harder, because it's a lot of businesses choose to ignore it because I kind of hear, it is what it is. We can't see non-consented. So that's an important one. We should definitely emphasize more.
Yeah, definitely. Because these all data, even though we can use it only for statistical purposes, we can use these also non-consent data for setup of the campaign, and this is most important business value of it, because if you are setting the campaign only on 60% of your data on within the rest of 40%, you are just assuming that the rest of the campaign should remain same, but it could be 40% different.
Mm. Before we dive into like an activation use cases, because this is kind of getting more to the standard CDP activation territory, which is super super exciting, and we have a few minutes left for that. I've got a question here, last question that came in DM, and it's something that's tying us back to the analytics. There's a question, if you care to answer that, is with the visibility of customer journey across the unified web app and banking, are there any KPIs or practical metrics that marketing is now following that historically were not really possible? Is there any new form of measurement, new kind of North Star metrics that you have developed because of the data that you have that you maybe haven't seen before? Or is there anything like that?
Well, I would say the KPIs remains basically same, but what is the major change is the fact that performance KPIs moved into internet banking, and more importantly to mobile app. And here is the crucial to have as many as you could have stitch profiles to evaluate these marketing effort within the final deals and business. So I would say it's not about the KPIs, but about how the business change and business change that you are basically doing only leads on the public website, and you have to, let's say, evaluate if these leads convert within the secured zone. And I mean secured zone, as we mentioned, internet banking as well as mobile bank and mobile app.
That makes sense. Thank you. Let's move into the last exciting part, the use cases. So the kind of the primary reason for companies buying a CDP is activation, right? They want to improve ROIs, the analytics, and the visibility. It's not often the main priority. And the project here has a different genesis, but we're kind of getting to the money making territory now. So how are you? How is KB using CDP for activation, and how does it work? And I'm assuming there's not a lot you can share and give us any details and financials, but if you can in any way give us a hint of how does it work for you guys, we would love to know.
Yeah, definitely. Because as Pavel mentioned, all of this which we came through was mainly about the analytics, and basically first 2 years of deployment was about the analytics and so on. But starting from last year, we started also CDP part, which is obviously the main purpose if you are buying CDP. So this is the main reason on which you are going to use CDP platform. And I could share the, let's say, the most successful, obviously, the let's say result or use case, and it's real-time segmentation. So within the upper funnel journeys, so you can imagine that you are in internet banking on the mobile app, and you just drop in somewhere between the start and end of the journey, between the between lead and deal. And so we basically real time take these informations, and we could use this information within real time communications, within the mobile banners, emails, or push notifications within the another communication tool which we have. As I mentioned, it's the SaaS, or we can use also for the contact center, and make the live connection between the customers and between the bank. And I would say these type of campaigns are most successful for us, especially within the financial products like consumer loan or overdraft and these type of products, because not only there is obviously the highest NBI and profit margin within these products, and these type of leads are also highly mostly with most probability to convert. And I would say the last benefit is also that these type of leads is with no addition of acquisition or marketing cost. So basically you are taking some lead to conversions with no additional marketing cost, and usually the success rates also, as well as in digital environment, as well as in omnichannel environment, I mean contact center, or maybe also we route the customer to the branch, like physical branch. These conversion rates are definitely the highest. And the challenge here was how we handle real-time events, because it's not about the real-time events itself, but it's about let's say create from these real-time events the final segments for the final trigger of the communications. And right now, I think it's really the most successful business scenarios in the bank, and also most the profit ones. So if you are going to start some use cases, definitely start it with this one.
That's fantastic. And I think this is easy to imagine for people if the entire application is made within the secure zone, because again, the user is already customer, they are already identified, they're already logged in, so that's kind of easy to follow it up. But if that's a form on the website, it's public, we know it's an existing customer, that becomes a much harder. But I really like the use cases. We're starting to see it with customers more and more. I kind of, for lack of a better term, I call it D2V, so like a digital to voice type of use cases, where there's some type of online tracking of a behavior, and when user demonstrates high intent, like we trigger a kind of a lead alert in a call center, and a salesperson with the right message calls them, right? Plus, we can retrieve the entire history of that customer, and shows you whether this is something that they do on a weekly basis just for fun because they are curious, or whether they have a real intent and have maybe bought similar products before. So this is super useful. This is very useful. I am surprised to see only 2 questions. There's no flood of questions. I would have so many if I was listening to this. But I've got a last one. If you can kind of maybe share a little bit of what's in the roadmap, what kind of use cases are business users coming to you with? Like, what would they like to do in future, whether feasible or not? Just kind of like what's the appetite? What does the business want to see?
Yeah, definitely. We wanna making more and more campaigns. Obviously, not only real time, but also batch campaigns. So not real time, but for example, day plus one campaigns, and it would be definitely totally fine for customers and also mainly for the business. And two major things which we are going to, I hope, successfully do in the future, and I hope in the near future, is definitely leverage the first party data as well as from digital channels. So it means, for example, cookies and so on, but also we can let's say, stitch these data to customer data and to have, for example, a phone number or email address of these ID of devices, and push this data into, for example, back into marketing platforms. But we are, as we mentioned, in highly regulated market. So we are solving right now, for example, if we are not breaching the bank the bank, let's say, rule specific here for Czech Republic and also for the EU. But nevertheless, on this example, we are also going to prioritize and to scoring these leads and these campaigns and the targets from these leads, at least for the contact center, because I think if somebody has also the channel contact center, it's the one of the expensive channel how you can handle the customer. And you can imagine that, for example, if you are generating I don't know 10,000 leads per day, and your capacity on your contact center is only, I would say, half of this. So you have to prioritize which target are much or more valuable than the other. And we are going to do this logic directly in the Meiro, and we are going to send the score within the segment, and this would automatically reroute the prioritizations to the contact center. And even though we will generate it, for example, 10,000 of the leads, contact center will start only with the half of these much more potential ones. So this is our main goals for the future with the Meiro.
That sounds really exciting, and it sounds like a real added value to the business. Vitkus, thank you so much. I think this has been captivating. We always, always can tell how good the content is from how many people are here all the way from the start to beginning. And if there's less than 10% change from the beginning to the end, it's always a great one. And I think this has been exciting, insightful look into how really complex, really regulated industry is doing kind of a customer data collection and activation. And I kind of tend to hear a lot of excuses from prospect and customers that we see. But I think, if it can work in a European regulated bank and with full compliance, I think it can work. It can work anywhere, and it should work anywhere. And the value added is, I hope, demonstrated here today really well. So thank you so much for coming on air with us and sharing this today. We'll be sharing the recording to people who have registered but haven't been able to make it, which always happens for some reason, understandably. And we'll be seeing you guys in the next sessions and on our newsletter. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you, Vitku, for taking the time. It's great. I've enjoyed this. I hope you did as well. Let us know feedback. Email me if you like this. If you have any questions, happy to have you guys here. Thank you. Thank you, Tarun. Have a great one, guys. Good to see you.
Okay, bye everyone.